Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. We've got our friend Raistlin Majere and is on the road, and he's back in Oregon again briefly. So I asked him to come on the show and talk a little bit about his travels, and also review DanK's garden. He had a few of the strains from DanK's garden, and he might want to comment on.
Oh, the blue magoo.
Yeah,
that is a really nice strain. First of all, the garden that all through the year that you were doing it, and your harvest came out great. The blue magoo did a nice head effect, and it hit the body for my aches and pains. And then I tried the wild cherry and got that.
Pie.
Oh, the cherry pie. Excuse me. And I did reviews and put them on the secret group for all those people that listen to me out there that belong to the group that watch Cannabis TV. Now you know where to go. So anyway, they were good strains, and I enjoyed them, and they were mostly indicas. Because to me, every part of the plant goes to the head and the body goes to the head. It's all effective, and it takes effect in different ways for different people.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so
yeah. Well, I had a bunch of strains, and you can go to youtube.com and type in Eugene Cannabis TV in the search, and then pick your episode. And if you go to episode, write this down. If you go to episode 539, 546, and 550, you can see the 3 different reports that we did, and you can see the plants as they progressed in size and age. So they've been harvested, and they came out really well. I got a late start, but they came out really well. So tell us about your...
Yes, they did.
Thank you. So talk about your travel. I know you talked about last time. I remember that met some good people on the road, and that's the stories I think are pretty neat.
Well, I always meet good people. Like this guy takes me to Ashland. I mean, this guy picked me up in Ashland last time, and he gave me a ride all the way to Pomona, and then he picked me, and then we drove. I drove, and he drove me back up here to Eugene. And I was supposed to come on the show that night, but I couldn't make it. And then he went on to Washington. And now, on the 9th of November, he'll be coming back up from Arizona, and I'll be riding with him all the way up from where I come from to Eugene with him, and then he'll continue on to Washington. But when I'm on the road, it just really depends on the people. But yeah, there have been some good people, and it usually takes me about a week to get home, you know. I mean, and it's kind of good, kind of bad, especially since I got my medication, I got my cat, and we get to travel a lot, you know. But it's kind of hard going over the hill during the winter months. You know?
Oh yeah.
That's what I was just having a hard time doing.
Yeah, in this day and age, it seemed like it'd be even harder than it used to be to hitchhike. But there's still people out offering rides, and I know I've given a few rides in the past, and boy, that's some interesting people that way.
Well, yeah, and plus truckers aren't able to give rides because of the insurance and company and a bunch of other reasons. So that makes it a little bit harder by not going to truck stops, because the truck stop employees will scoot you off and everything. So and rest areas are iffy. The rest area right side out Crestwell, I tried that one, and it didn't work out well at all. So I had to go down a little bit further, and because you gave me a ride down that far. So you say, yeah, you've given me rides, and I appreciate it. And
you got a medical card, but a California medical card. So you're okay in California, but it could be a little iffy in Oregon, because Oregon doesn't recognize them. But hopefully, one of these times, one point, they'll all be recognize each other cards.
Yeah, you see, that's one thing. I mean, since I'm a traveler and I'm visiting another state or whatever, I think there should be a leeway or whatever. Since a doctor has gone to school for 4 years, practiced the same thing, and I'm like right next door visiting you, and coming up and seeing you. So it's like, I think people should have a 30-day
Definitely.
grace period or whatever.
We got to wrap it up, so
Okay.
thanks for coming, and we'll talk to you again.
All right,
Thanks for being
thank you,
here.
my friend.
All righty. So we'll be right back, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the second segment of the episodes 551, and we're back, and we're talking about Measure 91. As we're sitting here, it's 2 weeks tomorrow until Election Day. So those ballots have been mailed out. Be looking for them. Get them filled out, and be sure and mark yes on 91 for legalization. And be sure everybody in your household and your group of friends is done their ballot and get their ballot in. So we have quite a bit from the Register Guard. Register Guard's been carrying quite a bit of stuff on the Measure 91. This was dated October 19th, and this is we have the pro and the con argument. So first is the Measure 91 Pro, and this is by Anthony Johnson. I'll read part of it, and then we'll have Jeremy kick in here. Oregon has the advantage of not repeating mistakes in 2 other states. That's the title, written by Anthony Johnson, who is the chief petitioner. When it comes to regulating, taxing, and legalizing marijuana, Oregon has the benefit of going third. Measure 91 is designed to take advantage of lessons learned from Washington and Colorado's marijuana legalization laws and improve upon them. And Measure 91 has been designed with built-in flexibility to continue adjusting the law in the future if needed. By the time the first licensed storefronts open in December in 2016, there will be nearly a decade of combined experience and data to draw from in the 3 states. To quote former Oregon Court Justice William Riggs, "I think it's inevitable that marijuana is coming to Oregon in one form or another, and I hope it comes in the form of a good bill like this one. If we are going to have marijuana in Oregon, this is the way to do it. If legalization is inevitable, we need to put the right restrictions into place. Measure 91 controls marijuana from seed to sale, penalizes access by minors, keeps drug-free workplace rules, and prevents public use. Measure 91 is comprehensive, more than 35 pages long. Writing it was a huge project. We went through more than 50 drafts. We got comments and help from parents, law enforcement officials, tax experts, legislative lawyers, drug treatment specialists, parents, mentioned parents twice, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, the governor's office, and many more. We studied what worked in other states, and we base that measure on a body of law that's already in effect in Oregon. The law is used to control beer, wine, and liquor because we wanted to use existing state infrastructure and not create a new agency. Yet under Measure 91, marijuana is even more strictly regulated than alcohol. No public use would be allowed, and the measure sets limits on the amounts one can buy or possess in a given time. One of the best ways to understand how Measure 91 works and what we have learned from other states is to compare what we have now to the system under Measure 91. Currently, marijuana is sold in back alleys and on playing fields. The sellers, drug dealers, don't ask for identification, aren't held accountable when they sell to young people, and don't provide any drug prevention or education programs. Buyers never really know what they're getting because the product is untested, unlabeled, unregulated. Meanwhile, drug dealers, gangs, and cartels turn in a tax-free profit.
Under Measure 91, marijuana would be sold at licensed, audited, inspected, and properly zoned facilities that are strictly regulated and not near schools. The sellers would be licensed salespeople who have passed background checks, who ask for identification, and who would be held accountable in sting operations to ensure they don't sell to youth. Only adults 21 and older could buy marijuana. The product would be tested and packaged in labeled controlled containers. Money from purchases would go to legitimate businesses and taxes used for essential public services. One key difference between Measure 91 and laws passed elsewhere is the rate and type of taxation. Oregon's tax would be levied at the production phase, as with other agricultural products, not the point of sale. The rate is low enough to attract businesses into the legal market and not so high as to retain a cheaper black market. The rate goes up with inflation and can be adjusted by the legislature if needed. That part kind of sounds scary because it sounds like what they're asking is maybe a little bit more than people want to pay already. But the scary part to me is that the legislator has the choice to raise it. And under Measure 91, the law, the new revenue from taxes will go to schools, state and local police, mental health and addiction services, drug treatment, and drug prevention programs. Treating marijuana use as a crime has failed. Last year, more than 11,000 adults were arrested or cited for marijuana use in Oregon, according to the Oregon State Police. That's one every 47 minutes. At a slightly lower number, in 2010, the FBI estimated that cost $50 million in police and court resources that could be spent on actual offenders like violent offenders. And that adds to go after small-time marijuana offenses. It's distracting the police and sheriffs from taking on violent crimes and perpetuates a system run by organized gangsters and cartels. Measure 91 is by far the most restrictive and responsible plan for regulation, taxation, and legalization of marijuana ever put before Oregon voters. Please read it yourself at voteyeson91.com. Anthony Johnson of Portland is the chief petitioner and co-author of Measure 91.
So there you have it. That's the pro side of Measure 91. And then the same paper, the same date, of course, the Register Guard published the con side, titled "Legalization Isn't Needed, and We Must Know More of the Consequences." I made a note here, and legalization isn't needed. That's a theme that the anti-legalization people seem to be, it's one of their arguments they like to bring up, is that we don't really need legalization because it's so decriminalized that nobody's being arrested now for it. Nobody's being arrested now.
Tell that to the people who are in jail for it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, this is written by Carla McKelvey, and Carla McKelvey is she's a pediatrician in Coos Bay. She's a past president of the Oregon Medical Association and a current officer with the Oregon Pediatric Society. McKelvey also served as the medical director for a clinic for children who are entering foster care. So, anyway, so this is what Carla McKelvey says. Oregonians would be wise not to jump on the marijuana legalization bandwagon. The vote yes on Measure 91 folks paint a rosy picture. No more arrests for processing marijuana, money flooding into the state coffers to be used to fund schools, the disappearance of gangs and drug cartels in our state. Unfortunately, none of this is based on fact. Oregon needs to wait and watch the social experiment that is going on in Washington State and Colorado. In 5 years, we will have a better understanding of what are the true challenges and costs to legalizing marijuana. One has to wonder, what is the problem we are trying to solve by passing Measure 91? Marijuana was decriminalized in Oregon in 1973. People who possess up to an ounce of marijuana can be levied a fine up to $1,000. Penalties are more severe if they occur within 1,000 feet of school. A person may consume marijuana in private without penalty.
I got all that wrong.
Nationwide, the percentage of state inmates who are in prison for possession of marijuana is less than 1%. In Oregon, that percentage is even smaller. For the past 40 years, marijuana users have not been put in prison for using the drug sensibly and responsibly. The Yes on Measure 91 campaign would have you believe that law enforcement related to marijuana will go away. There still will be laws outlined in Measure 91. The initiative lists rules for dispensaries, the amount a person can possess in their homes, driving while under the influence, and more. One would assume that those laws still would be enforced to ensure that marijuana is used sensibly and responsibly. While the lure of increased revenue may be attractive, once again it would be prudent for us to wait and see what the true costs will be. Our current drug treatment programs are inadequately funded to handle the current load. Marijuana users make up 35% of the people who are receiving services, and that reflects an upward trend. Go ahead.
Measure 91 proponents may argue that increased revenue will be used for education and treatment. There is no reason to believe that the revenue to cost ratio for marijuana will be the same as it is for tobacco and alcohol. For every $1 of tax revenue you collected for these legal drugs, there is $10 spent to cover the associated costs, including law enforcement, drug treatment, and education. From January to May 2014, Colorado's revenue from recreational marijuana was $15.3 million. Yeah, wouldn't it be nice to have $15.3 million for our schools? I think so. However, due to the concerns of young people increasingly using marijuana, Colorado is spending $17 million on an educational campaign targeting 12 to 15-year-olds. The state wants to make sure the parents and young people know the dangers of marijuana use in an area in which more medical studies are showing the true dangers of chronic long-term use. Well, what I have to say to that is maybe if they would spend less money on DARE and more on telling them the actual truth about the plant, they wouldn't be spending $17 million. They could just tell them the truth in a normal class and not spend any extra money.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll wrap this up, and we'll get, in the second segment we'll get back and finish this up because we got some more comments on this, rebuts actually. But so anyway, stay tuned, and we'll be right back. And don't forget, you can always come and see us at the Community CTV 29 Studios behind Sheldon High School. Monday nights at 7:30. Come by and see us. So stay by. Hang around. We'll be right back in our next segment.
And now a message from the American Marijuana Growers Association.
Hi, I'm a farmer, and I work hard every day to grow high-quality marijuana, the biggest cash crop in these United States. I'd like to thank you for your support of U.S. marijuana policy. Because marijuana is illegal, I don't have to pay taxes. Even better, prohibition leads to artificially inflated prices, which means a better quality of life for me and my family, as long as I don't get caught. Just as importantly, your tax dollars support thousands of U.S. agents who work tirelessly to keep low-grade, foreign marijuana out of our country. So thank you, America. And remember, whether you're nauseated from chemotherapy or just in the mood for a nice cool buzz, choose the best pot in the world, American homegrown.
Welcome back to Eugene Cannabis TV, episode 551, and this is the third segment. And the last segment, we were talking, we were going over the Register Guard guest viewpoint on Measure 91. This was the con argument, arguing against Measure 91, titled Legalization Isn't Needed, and we must know more of the consequences. So what we were reading here was talking about Colorado, Washington. They're talking about, let's see, January to May 2014, Colorado's revenue from recreational marijuana was $13.5 million. However, due to the concerns of young people increasingly using marijuana, Colorado was spending $17 million on an education program.
Yeah, we read that part already.
Did I read that? Okay, so the danger...
We're at, in Washington State.
Oh, okay, you're right. In Washington State, authorities are discovering that legalization has not gotten rid of the black market. The cost of legal marijuana is considerably higher than black market marijuana. People are not flocking to the new legal venues once they discover that they can buy marijuana for less than their usual illegal suppliers. Colorado is finding the same. Estimates are that 60% of marijuana sales are from legal distributors. The remainder is coming from the black market. Now, if you're talking against legalization and bringing up that argument, then you are so full of BS, because it's the government raising the prices through their greed to get their taxes from it is what's raising the prices above black market, which is defeating the whole purpose. Hello, but they won't take responsibility, of course, for that. And as it says right here, with almost 30 towns and cities in Oregon already voting to add sales taxes to any local marijuana sales, the cost of legalized marijuana looks as if it will be significantly higher than the black market version. Well, duh, then why don't we fix it?
Why don't we leave the law in there like they wrote, that they cannot add any taxes? They can't add any local taxes.
That's exactly the way it should be.
They're trying to get them passed before the Measure 91 passes, is so that they can work around it and try and sneak one over, but it's not honest and it's not going to work.
And then this next statement, in the next paragraphs, and another jewel. Now is not the time to legalize marijuana. Now is the time to be prudent and wait. In 5 years, we will be able to assess the true costs, financial, legal, and social, of legalizing marijuana. Let's take a lesson from Colorado. Let's not be a lab rat.
What is she talking about? About 5 years anyways. What's in 5 years? There's another election in 4 years.
I know. I don't know.
I think she was smoking something different than marijuana when she wrote this.
It could
but
be.
It must have messed with her brain.
It definitely could be. There's another article. It was on the 15th of October in the Register Guard. This is an article written by, actually it was a guest op-ed, and this was he is a doctoral candidate in the Department of Sociology at the University of Oregon, and he teaches a course on drug policy. And he wrote I won't have time to read the whole thing tonight, but we need to get some high points of this. But what he's saying is his op-ed is titled, Measure 91 Undercuts the Goals of Pot Legalization. In 2012, residents of Colorado and Washington bypassed their state legislatures and voted to legalize cannabis, commonly called marijuana, for recreational use, taking the first step toward ending 77 years of prohibition. This single act changed the entire political landscape. For the first time, a majority of Americans support cannabis legalization, and many states are already discussing change at the policy level. Measure 91 in Oregon's November 4th ballot, however, undercuts two of the central goals of legalization: eliminating the black market and reducing the role of law enforcement in drug policy. If it passes, Measure 91 is bound to fail. A primary reason for this is the way business licenses would be granted. Measure 91 gives the Oregon Liquor Control Commission complete control over cannabis regulation, including the sole authority to issue licenses for cultivation and sales. Further, Measure 91 allows the OLCC to deny a license to anyone with a marijuana conviction in the past 5 years, or 2 convictions total, which includes many people now operating the black market. People are unlikely to stop working in the underground economy unless they're offered similar opportunities in the legal one. The creation of much touted green jobs will be mostly low-paying service sector work, hardly a replacement for the higher incomes people currently enjoy as a grower or seller on the black market. If decades of failed drug policy have demonstrated anything, it's that the black market cannot be stopped by law enforcement. There is also enough ambiguity in the wording of Measure 91 that the OLCC could technically deny anyone a license. The measure would allow the OLCC to deny a license to any person the agency considers not of good repute and moral character, or in the habit of using alcoholic beverages, habit-forming drugs, marijuana, or controlled substances to excess. Determining whether or not a person is of good moral character or has a substance abuse problem is a highly subjective process that should not be left to 5 liquor control commissioners, people with no democratic accountability. Despite ostensible legalization, Measure 91 maintains most of the criminal penalties of illegal cannabis possession, cultivation, and sales. And so, yes, there's been some, there's been criticism on that. I have the website for this article, and what's really interesting is a friend of ours, Russ Billville, has written a reply to this, which is really interesting. So send me an email at dankbagman@hotmail.com, and I can send this to you, and it's real interesting. So anyway, we're going to get out of here. We thank Jeremy for coming in tonight, and we'll talk to you next week.